Hi everybody, it's a forecast year here reporting in. We'd like to do a forecast for hot trends that are happening, where they're headed, especially for Q4 of 2014. Today is Thursday, October 9th, 2014, so we're getting into mid-October here shortly. Main talk, a couple things, is the midterm elections coming up for the USA Congress. I believe all of them are up for election in Congress. They go up every 2 years, I believe, and then Senate every 6 years, and they're staggered, so about a third of the Senate and all of the Congress. Or maybe Congress every 4 years. I can't remember. Anyhow, a bunch of the Congress and a good portion of the Senate are up for election at this time. So what does this mean? There is not a lot of happy sentiment about the economic situation right now in the United States. They're saying that it's great, but you ask the person on the street how they're doing, they're not going to echo that sentiment. So there's a lot of hot air and trickery going in in the numbers, highly manipulated numbers about the real inflation rate and a few other things. The presidential approval polls are quite low. Less than half of the U.S. citizens right now approve of the performance of the president. It doesn't bear well for his party. Unfortunately, the Republicans, they don't have as much going for them as they did, say, back in the 80s, back in the Reagan years. It's a very different situation these days. So although some pundits or many people say that, that the Republicans will make a strong move of embolden their position in Congress and Senate, which could happen, due to the fact that people are less enthralled with the Republican Party, generally speaking, than they were in days past, especially, again, back in the 1980s when they had a massive following. It may not be as significant an uptake as some are predicting. So we'll see. It's hard to tell. The elections can be heavily manipulated at the last minute by some sort of a stunt or a trick. There's all kinds of conspiracy theories about the counting of the votes and how that works out and whether they're rigged and whether there's a big PR push. There's so much controlled mass media today. So it's really hard to know for sure the outcome of the election. But just the general trend generally seems that the Democrats are going to lose some of their position. How much is hard to say, and I'm not following all the local races, so I couldn't comment on them. Stock market. This election ties into a variety of other things. When the election's done, when it's done in early November, watch for then the political leadership that's in place is there for 2 years, and there's a backlog of major problems that they're going to be facing. And watch for a variety of bad news to come to the surface soon after, and also major problems to crop up that are being kind of swept under the rug and kicked down the can and delayed. All right, what kind of things? Well, the stock market is likely to plunge. Why? Well, one thing is that the Federal Reserve will be finally, after what, 6, 7 years of having interest rates at almost zero, is now going to start barely creeping them up. Remember, back a while ago, about a year ago or 6 months ago, they tried to creep up the rate, and the markets just tanked and plunged. They said, "Whoa, we're not really going to do that." And so, watch for major problems in 2015. But I think it's going to be coming sooner. I think it's going to be. We got a lot of problems on the horizon right after the election. These are, World War III type problems, and these are problems that are over in Eastern Europe. A situation, a tangle that we're getting into with Russia over Ukraine, and the situation in Iraq and Syria with ISIS, how that's playing out. Those are situations that could easily spill out of control in a dangerous way. Probably they'll escalate. We're not really doing the de-escalation stuff that we should be doing. So these problems are kind of interconnected in a way. After the timing of the election happens, a lot of these problems are going to come to the surface. This guy, George Soros, is a very, very smart investor and analyst, and you can review his analysis as to why he's making a massive short on the S&P 500, and also a lot of other insiders have already sold their position and gotten out in the stock market. So it's mostly retail investors and other people right now. Okay. What else is going on? Notice the gas prices being kind of held down, and you're wondering why. Well, the economy is not doing too good. If the economy was doing good, people would be driving around a lot, using up a lot of fuel. They have had to cut back on their driving and other transportation expenses. That's part of the reason why gas is lower. The demand has gone down. The economy is not doing great. If the economy was on fire, you'd see the prices be more or less stable, unless they just discovered a bunch of oil, or if we're involved in overproduction, like I believe we are with fracking and the bacon find, and like Saudi Arabia is probably pumping out their last bit of oil. They're under pressure from the Saudis to pump a whole lot of oil to keep the prices lower for a variety of reasons, including making the sanctions on Russia more effective. Basically, they want to punish Russia, and if they get the price below, $80 or $70 a gallon, then it gets to be a very much a powerful pain point for the Russia economy that's heavily dependent on the oil price. Okay, so, but this is also a little bit manipulated. We see this manipulated before a lot of elections. So let's go back in 8 years at a time here, if we can, to see during an election. If we go back every 4 years here, approximately 2014. Okay, we had election 2000. Oh, look at 2014. Look at the price of oil go down for the summer. Price of gas. What about gas, buddy? And then kind of go back up. But especially, we got to get those gas prices down in time for the election. This is 2008 is a classic study. Right? We had the bad economy, and in a bad economy, the demand for gas plunges. Okay, people have to stop driving, and that they go on alternate mechanisms to use their vehicles, and the demand for fuel dries up a lot more. When the economy is going strong, the demand for fuel is stronger. 2008, terrible year, the economy tanked, and we remember like those crazy gas prices up at $4 a gallon back in 2008, and then overnight plunging to less than $2. But there's also something else at play. They've got to get those prices down before the election. They can't be going into election with crazy high gas prices. And the gas companies know this. So they do their part to take tighter profits or profit margin for a few weeks or months going to the election. They know this. They do not want gas prices to be a topic of the election at all. Okay, they're going to be on their best behavior, all the oil companies. They know this. And then they get the prices back up. They do this every election year. All right, now, look for a stock market crash. Yeah, again, after the election, possibly going into it. But watch the real action actually occur after the election, and starting, late fall November 2014, after the election's done. Watch out below all through 2015. That's likely to be a very risky time, and we're looking at major stock market problems likely. Again, this will be another catalyst for a problem in the stock market, a big one. The Fed trying to raise interest rates. If they do, if they make good on this, they keep kicking the can down the road on this thing. They say, oh yeah, in about 6 months we're going to do it, and then they don't do it. Well, the economy's not picked up enough, so now we can't do it. So there might be another excuse. They might delay this again. That wouldn't surprise me. But if they do, if they make good on this, watch out below. All right, we talked about gas prices and the gas situation. Again, there's a lot of things at play here. But again, they also want to punish the Russians here and enforce their sanctions. October surprise, I don't think there's really going to be one. I think they're going to try to keep it calm until after the election. I think the surprise coming is probably going to be like a December surprise or a November surprise right after the election. Probably like December. I think December is going to be a rough month. December, January, but especially December. People are going to be getting into Christmas and stuff like that and not really paying attention to what's going on. And then the real bad news is going to come. So I'd really watch out for that time around right after the election. Okay. Ebola. Watch Ebola to continue to be a major, major problem, especially with the refusal to do the things that we recommended, including travel bans, quarantining whole towns and villages. They're just not willing to do those politically dicey things at this time. So we can look for real problems on Ebola in the future. It's going to continue to grow geometrically. It's doubling the caseload every 3 weeks. You multiply that out over a couple months. I mean, you got this thing going pandemic very quickly. And again, our government really has not been taking the full, strong steps needed. They did a couple things, but really they're exacerbating the problems by allowing the air travel to continue. Situation in Eastern Europe over Ukraine, kind of quasi-proxy war between NATO and Russia, is likely to get exacerbated in the winter. The Russians can fight a winter war. Almost nobody else can. The Ukrainians don't really have a lot of oil. They have hardly any money. And so right now what's going to happen is they are going to be ill-positioned to fight a war in the winter. The Russians know this, and they can freeze them out, basically. They're going to have to hunker down. They cannot fight a winter war in Ukraine. Russia can. So that being the case, it's very likely the Russians are going to go in and try to grab southeast Ukraine. I don't think they'll try to grab all of it. They could in theory. Why would they want to grab this? Well, culturally, these are Russian-type people that identify with Russia, but also they need to get Crimea here, where they've got this naval base they've got that's so critical for their navy, their warm water ports. The Russians on the eastern seaboard, or excuse me, the western seaboard, the Atlantic seaboard, in the Mediterranean, they don't have a lot of warm water ports where they can pull in any day of the year. All their northern stuff gets frozen over. Their navy can't sail out of there. Without this, without Crimea, they're almost landlocked. They've got a little bit of stuff over here where they have the Olympics. It was Sochi and places like that, but they don't have like a real naval facility because they're not. They don't have like the natural harbor and all that. So they're really in a jam for their navy, and they know this. They know they've been encircled by NATO effectively, and that if they don't have force projection for their navy, they could be in a real funny spot. So I predict in the winter they're going to make a major move to try to grab this land and annex it into Russia. Watch for that to happen. Major problems with ISIS will continue. We're not putting the kibosh on them strong enough. These problems are going to really continue, and frankly, we're not doing enough to cut off their arms supply and their money supply. So ISIS is going to be a major problem, frankly. Some good news. Well, maybe depending on who you ask. We got El Nino coming this fall. It's a strange weather pattern. It means the child, meaning Jesus Christ. It's when the Pacific reverses direction, and it could mean a lot of snow for you people that like to ski, especially on the West Coast, in places like California, Colorado, New Mexico, and Tahoe's, New Mexico, and all those places in Colorado, Snowbird, and Utah. So West Coast USA could get a really good snow dump with some good powder. That could be some good news. If you live out there, though, it might be pretty cold. So anyhow, get ready for that. That's our forecast for Q4 forecast year 2014. Signing off. Be safe. Please like us if you like this video. Check out our other videos. You'll see we have very accurate forecasting work we do based on trend analysis. And please subscribe if you're interested in subscribing. And please check out our website. It's got great tools, especially on forecasting, but also prepping and survival issues. Thanks so much. Stay safe.